Welcome to the Dream Journal. From the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, the Dream Journal is a weekly show where we explore the power of nighttime dreams through conversations with dream experts and with listeners like you.
So there's no those vital minutes, time is keenly found.
A dream can be meaningful even if you don't know what it means. And today's music is called Teletherapy. How much teletherapy is now going on as we have learned to work from home. And it can be a beautiful thing. We talk to people around the world. So, what is Projective Dreamwork? Meet the hosts of the Healing Dream Project podcast, Billie Ortiz, Royce Fitts, and Viviana Guzman. We're going to talk about Projective Dreamwork, and then we're going to do it. I am your host, Catherine Bell of Experiential Dreamwork, and welcome to the Dream Journal. The Dream Journal is also a weekly podcast. You can subscribe, rate, and review. It really helps the algorithm teach it that we do like dreams. You know, everybody dreams, and let's spread the passion of dreaming. But really, most importantly, talk to your friends about the show. The mission of the show is to get folks talking about dreams. So, give it a chance. Maybe your friends are interested, and you never knew it, and they never knew you were interested in dreaming. Archives are also available at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all those places. You can also find them on our own webpage at ksqd.org/the-dream-journal. And much gratitude for K Squid for hosting us all these years. It's been 5.5 years now. All right, we got 3 guests on. So let me get right to the guests. Viviana Guzman, are you there?
Hi, good morning,
yes,
Catherine.
Wonderful. And then Royce Fitts.
I am here.
Excellent.
I just want to say I am so grateful that we are invited to do this, Catherine. And in the realm of you can't make this stuff up, we are being interviewed by a PhD in astrophysics.
True.
and we're joined by an international flutist and tarot reader.
Yeah.
And when Billie comes, we will be with the famous mythologist and dream projection worker with Billie.
I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Oh, is this Billie?
Yes. I just had to reconnect.
We have the whole team on. And Royce, thank you. I appreciate you highlighting us, and I also want to highlight you as a new author of your book, The Geography of the Soul. And let's also say Royce Fitts is a spiritual counselor, a dream worker, and an ordained minister with decades of experience as a clinical psychotherapist. So it is a pleasure to have you on the show, Royce.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, let me say hi to Billie Ortiz. Both Billie and Royce have been on the show before. It's great to get them together, and we'll add in Viviana in just a moment. Billie Ortiz is a certified dream worker and has over 2 decades of experience creating and facilitating dream groups, workshops, and retreats. She works online and in person in Colorado. You're in the Boulder area, is that right, Billie?
That's right.
Okay,
yes.
Yeah, always have so many workshops whenever I go to your webpage, which is called wakeuptoyourdreams.com, and it's there's so much that you do, that you offer the world, and it's a pleasure to have you on the show again.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. And then our third guest is the fabulous Viviana Guzman, a Chilean-born flutist who has received a Grammy nomination and a Global Music Awards Gold Medal. Currently, Viviana teaches at the University of California, Santa Cruz. So, a local girl. So glad to have you on the show, Viviana.
Thank you, Catherine, for having us. We're so excited about this.
Good. So the three of these folks, Billie, Royce, and Viviana, have a podcast called the Healing Dreams Project, which has been going for several years. And in that, they actually do the work. They don't just talk about dreams. They take their guests, they invite their guests, let the guests talk a little bit, and then they and then they lay them out and say, "What's your dream?" and I had the privilege of being on the show in February, and I shared a dream, and I got to hear all of your wonderful, helpful projections about it. And so they really give this wonderful example of what is projective dreamwork. So, we're going to just trust that the three of you are used to being on the air together, and I'll ask a question, and I'll mostly just be out to the vapors, and whoever jumps in can be the one to answer it. And of course, you can all weigh in, and if you all talk at once, so that's okay too.
Okay.
So
the challenge here is that usually we're doing video while we're recording, so we can usually see the raise of the eyebrow or the the twitch of the hand. Like, please, it's my turn. But
it's true. Without the video, it is a little bit more difficult to figure out who's next. But I'm sure we'll be fine. We'll work it out. So I wanted to start by asking the question: what is projective dreamwork, and what does that even mean?
Wow. Well, do you want me to go, Royce, or Viviana? I'll go first.
Billie, go.
What is projective dreamwork? Well, projective dreamwork basically is a way to look at the dream by taking on the dream as your own. So, in other words, when someone tells us a dream, our only option is to have an imagined version of that dream. It's like if you told me about your vacation, in my mind I'm visualizing your vacation, and that's my only option because I didn't participate in the same thing. So whenever we have a dream and we share it with someone and they have their imagined version of it, we like to foster the understanding that we have to own the projection. We have to say, every time we make a comment, it's very different if I say, well, I think your dream, Catherine, means that you, instead of saying, in my imagined version of this dream, I might think it means this, then proceed forward, because then the work goes both ways. Then the dreamer has a chance to either take it or leave it, and if it doesn't resonate for them, fine. If it does, it's wonderful. But the person making the comment has the chance to hear it as they owned the dream themselves too. So the projection goes out to the dreamer, but it also resonates inside when I hear myself saying I.
Okay. So that brings us to the definition of a projection, which is a psychological term in this case. It doesn't have to do with movies or something like that, or spotlights, but maybe we should have Royce jump in here and just tell us what is a projection in a psychological term.
Well, I'm going to explain it this way. Billie did a wonderful job. We cannot not project. So in a sense, we are related to the movie world because we have a movie projector going on inside of us, looking at the world outside of us all the time. And what that means is we can only understand the movie that's happening in front of us through our own deep understandings of life. And some of that may be conscious, and lots more of it is unconscious. So we move our movie camera around and look at the world. We listen to other people. We hear them speak. We make opinions. We make guesses of what's going on outside of us. And no matter how well we do that, it's always a projection. We can't get away from it. And in the projective process, this is a way to say, you know what? Let's just own this. Let's lovingly embrace this instinct that is called projection. And then if we own it, when we look at, listen to, experience others, we can also say, this is how I experience what's happening in front of me. And if I can also sneak in, I'm a shrink. And so as I sound like I may criticize shrink world, I'm doing it with love from the inside. Because when someone goes to a counselor and they share a dream and then they're given an interpretation, it's like, it may be on target. Okay, that's good. However, it's still a projection from the counselor onto the dreamer. And when we say to the dreamer, well, in my projection, that frees the dreamer up to, number one, hear us as an authentic human being struggling to make beauty and meaning in life. It also, though, gives room for the dreamer to not feel analyzed or interpreted about who they are. It gives them room to say, you know, I disagree, or wow, that feels on target.
Okay. Right. So then the dreamer gets to be the focus of their own thoughts rather than feeling like they're being accused of the other person, like your dream means X, Y.
Yeah, accused is a harsh and accurate term. Yeah.
I want to get Viviana in here too. So how does this work for you, Viviana? What's first drew you in about this projective dream work?
What I love most about it is that I think dreams don't have just one meaning.
Yeah.
And by doing the collective projection on a dream, everyone can chime in what they think, and then the dreamer can assess whether or not they resonate with what is being said. And astoundingly, every time my dreams are being, projected on others, I always just grab there's just so much wealth and knowledge, and it just resonates so much. Collectively, I can gather little bits from everyone. That's what I love most about it. And every dream has, I think, is here to show us something too, or has something that we can learn from. So I just love the whole process.
Okay, well, let's start with Viviana again, and this time I'm curious about some specific techniques. We have already heard the phrase, if this were my dream or my projection on your dream, and what do you find that is helpful as part of the process of projective dream work? And let's start with Viviana.
I think that the whole process is actually very simple, and it is just that. And that's the main thing. And when I hear somebody projecting on my dream and they hear it as their dream, if it were my dream, blah, 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 all of a sudden it just lessens, and I see it instantly from a new perspective, from the speaker's perspective. So it is just that. If it were my dream, and it really helps so much. It's such a small little phrase to add to an interpretation, but for me, I think it's everything. Right.
And this brings us to the way that you use projective dream work. You can definitely use it in one-on-one. If you're just chatting with somebody and someone tells you a dream, this is kind of dream manners, to use your protocol to say, well, if it were my dream, it might mean something, or tell me more about the dream. And also can be very useful in groups. Like people like to get together and talk about their dreams in groups, and the projective dream work is the perfect vehicle for that, and it eliminates friction, or certainly minimizes friction between members, because it's very gentle, it's very humble. It's like, well, if it were my dream, if in my version of this dream, and then the dreamer gets to take it however they want to.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So I have some curious a little bit about the history of projective dream work. So I first ran across it in terms of Jeremy Taylor. And I believe, Billie, is that your certification with Jeremy Taylor's projective dream work?
Yeah. Yes, I worked with Jeremy from, the year 2000 until his death in 2018. I worked with him consistently, inviting him in to co-facilitate dream retreats with me. And also, every month, once a month, I do my own work. I'd work on my own dreams as well. I think the original time, my understanding is that Montague Ullman was the first one to use "If This Were My Dream." The Ullman method is a little more rigid on how and when to ask the questions and how to form the projections. But from what I understand, Jeremy just sort of spontaneously had came up with the idea when he was writing the book. Actually, it goes back to when he was doing community organizing and working with a group of people that were not meshing very well, and he figured out by sharing the dreams, somehow everybody got on the same page. It was miraculous. And so that was his first experience. And that was way back in the 60s. And he was trying to get these people on, to communicate better with one another. And the If It Were My Dream was born there in his work.
His version of Projective Dreamwork.
Right, his version of it. And then later he read Monica Ullman's book, and he was like, wow, we had this collective unconscious idea,
Right.
So it's later it started becoming more connected to Jeremy over time. He never really was very comfortable with it being called Taylor style dream work, because he always would encourage each of us that studied with him to come up with our own version of it, to still stick with the guidelines of the projective method, but find our own particular expertise. I mean, there's certain people I work with, for instance, that always see a level of health in dream work. This is something that's really important. Our dreams are telling, as Viviana mentioned, there's no such thing as a dream with only one meaning. So every dream's going to have that layer of relationship health and right livelihood, and possibly some comments about our ancestors, trying to,
Right.
what's even past life information can come through. And one layer, which is very helpful, is to look at the metaphors that are there that might be hinting at a possible health issue. So, so for instance, that's an area of dream work that someone could specialize in. So that's pretty much it. It's like, follow the guidelines of the projected dream work, but find your own niche and the whole thing.
That's interesting. I had not heard that he was encouraging people to find their own ways, and I also love that he developed this in parallel with Ullman, this kind of a 100th monkey kind of a thing. It was idea whose time has come.
That's it. Very good.
And so, Royce, you're a trained psychologist, and I don't think there's many psychologists that do a lot of work with dreaming, which is strange to me. I've heard this quote from Jeremy Taylor that he thought that most psychotherapists don't work with dreams because they're too rich. There's too much.
Right. Well, I thank you, and I want to clarify a little bit. In the realm of the helping professions, there's a lot of different brands. I am not a psychologist. I do have a doctoral degree, and it's in marriage and family therapy, and I just want to respect this broad aspect of how many people are trained and are very willing to be with others as they go through their journeys and seek healing. Yeah, and so my understanding of dreams comes out of this deep belief that dreams, just like projection, dreams are an instinct. And if now biologists and other scientific studies have shown that it looks like, in some form, all life forms seem to have something in their own version of a dream, and that has an evolutionary aspect of life forms forming and reforming and developing. So when we look at dreams within us as humans, our species, I believe that dreams are deeply an instinct, and we cannot remove them. We want to maybe dismiss them, and yet we as a species will continue to dream. And part of what Jeremy helped me understand, and Carl Jung and others in the area of the unconscious, is that because we are all connected as life forms, there seems to be a collective, not just connected, but there's a collection of all of this stuff that we call the unconscious in dreams in particular. And so dreams come for us as individuals, And in a more beautiful sense, dreams come for us as a species and as a tribe, as a community. And as Jeremy experienced in his community organizing efforts in Oakland so many years ago that Billy lifted up, he saw the conflicts that normal people are having. And by his inviting people to share their dreams, they began to see commonalities in who they are, and also a commonality in the sense of mission to bring healing to their communities.
I love that, the communal aspect. There is something that's very innate about sharing dreams. Like you mentioned that all animals that have been studied seem to dream, which I think is pretty amazing, or they have dreamlike interludes during their sleep. We can't really know exactly what they're experiencing. And yet, as far as we know, like spiders don't get together and talk about their dreams, right? But maybe they do. I don't know for sure. But humans, it's like a real urge. Like, oh boy, I had the strangest dream last night,
Just one quick thing to insert here. There is a YouTube video of an octopus who is dreaming, and he continues to change color and they've surmised that what he's dreaming about is hiding in different parts of the ocean, and so he's changing the color of his skin based on where he's hiding. So if you can look this up on YouTube, and I don't if I find the link, I'll send it to you later. But it's really fascinating to watch, because he goes and he moves in different positions and then changes color, and he's asleep. So this is one of the like as Royce mentioned, as far as we know, all living creatures dream.
Right. And so there's something very powerful about dreaming, or we would have not be, we would not be doing it millions of years later after life has evolved on Earth. There's something very powerful about it. And I want to talk a little bit about the podcast, because you have the Healing Dreams Project is the name of your podcast. And the whole thing that I do on this show, too, is to talk about dreams. There's something that's really valuable about that. And I wondered, what gave you the idea to start a podcast? Maybe Viviana would like to jump in on this topic?
Well, where do I start? I was in a near-death experience in a car accident on Highway 1, 50 miles an hour, head-on collision. Oh my God. And when I emerged out of that trauma, then I went into a pulmonary embolism, a second near-death experience, and airlifted to Stanford Hospital. It was anyway. After that, I had a very strong calling to continue dream work, and I had a physical group in Half Moon Bay, but I wanted more, and I found Billie and joined her dream groups, and I just thought, I don't know, I just wanted more of that in my life. It was a time where I had time. I was lying flat and recovering from my accident and my embolism, and I was obsessed with it. And as a performer myself, and I have a couple other podcasts, and I'm interested in sound and all this, and I just thought, I thought she would be great to do a podcast. And I could just produce it and work out all the details. And then she invited Royce to join the group, and that's how we came alive.
Oh, that's wonderful. I wonder if somebody would like to share a story about the podcast itself, like some particular insight somebody had. We have a few more minutes before the break, and then after the break, I'd like to try to do a little projected dream work on either one of our dreams or a caller's dream. But I wonder if somebody has a story about the podcast that they feel comfortable sharing on the air.
Well, Royce and Viviana were wonderful about sharing their dreams publicly, and I was a little nervous about that, to be honest, at the beginning. Yes. But it is, and the fact that it was just going to be syndicated everywhere. So it took me a little while, but once I did actually jump in and do a dream live and in person on the podcast, it was the experiences were wonderful. And I wanted to let everybody know that we have a large library about, I think there's like 56 episodes
Nice.
that go back a couple of years. We've been on hiatus for a while, but we'll get back to it soon. But please look up the library, and you can find where I work a dream, and Viviana and Royce, each of us individually, share our insights and vulnerability.
And then I was on the podcast in February, and I share a dream about the dream journal. As I recall, it was one of my anxiety about doing the podcast dreams, of which I have many. It's very intense.
And we invite the listeners to call in their own dreams as well. So whoever, we're not just looking for famous people like Catherine. We're open to, the regular folks of our world, because we so passionately believe that every dream is going to contribute to us toward our health, healing, wholeness, and wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so true. And I know that Jeremy Taylor used to like to quote, I think it's Federico Ferenczi, who would say, dreams are the workshop of evolution.
Yes.
And that this is where we as a human species are exploring the future and trying out different ways of being in the world.
Yeah, beautiful. Well said.
Okay. All right, so we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back live in just a few minutes. So this is my guests today are Billie Ortiz, Viviana Guzman, and Royce Fitts, hosts of the Healing Dreams Project podcast, and we are talking about Projective Dreamwork. We are broadcast live from the KSQD studios in Santa Cruz and co-broadcast live in San Jose by KCXU. After the break, we are going to go into this experience, this idea of projective dream work, and somebody's going to get a free dream session right now as soon as we're done with our break. Okay, this is the Dream Journal. I'd like to welcome our far-flung listeners on the live stream. We have lots of local folks listening in. We also have Alameda, California, Oakland, California, Denver, people from Denver. We have Scottsbluff, Nebraska. Welcome to you. And Ashburn, Virginia. Thanks for tuning in. Emmaus, Pennsylvania, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So glad to have you tuned into the show. Next week, our guest will be psychotherapist Marilyn Mounsey, who treats women with acute stress disorder using what she calls dream psychotherapy. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook by following hashtag The Dream Journal. I always offer promotions about the upcoming show, and then you'll be the first to know when the podcast drops on Monday. So today we have three guests, the team from the Healing Dreams Project podcast, who are Viviana Guzman, Dr. Royce Fitts, and Billie Ortiz. So glad to have you on the show. And we've been talking about projective dream work. And now in the second half of the show, we want to do a demonstration of the dream work. And let me say hi to my caller. Is it Julie? Is it right? Where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm calling from Denver.
Julie, thanks for calling.
Hello, Royce, Billie, and Viviana.
Hi, Julie.
Hello, Julie.
Hello.
Wonderful. So Julie, you've maybe listened to the show a little bit and know we're talking about projective dream work. And so do you have any questions before we get started? Do you want to go ahead and share your dream and see where we go from there?
Okay. I don't have any questions. I'm familiar with the work and folks. And anyway, I had a dream on the 30th, so maybe the 29th that evening. And there's a party outside, kind of like a picnic party, and Errol, my granddaughter, has two birthday cakes. They're both chocolate. One is large and one is a little smaller. And her stepdad Teddy is lighting the candles, and he's trying not to get burnt. They seem high flames. And I seem to be at this party, but in a way more of an observer, as if watching it from a window or from above. There are a lot of members of my family there, the grandkids. And then there are two couples sitting behind one of my daughters. They're in their maybe 40s, 50s. The woman looks kind of familiar, like somebody that I used to know, and she's sitting with a guy that he has very dark hair, and he's staring at me as if he knows me. For some reason, it comes to mind that he's Native American, but I don't know why that is. And then the thing that really strikes me is that I see a bobcat emerge in the middle of this crowd, and it's very beautiful with very golden fur and, the speckles. And I call out and I say, "Look at the cat," and someone shoos the animal with a loud voice away. And they kind of just disappear either over a hill or into the earth. And I also see raccoons among the group, which don't really bother me. And then I hear that one of the couples, that a man has died from sun exposure.
Sun exposure. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out which man it is, and end of dream.
Wow.
Okay. So, birthday party, trying to get the candles lit. I'm just going to summarize a little bit so I can make sure I got the gist of it. And then there's a man with dark hair staring at me, maybe Native American man. And I see a bobcat emerge from the crowd. And I say, "Look at the cat." And someone shoos it away. And somewhere, I believe a man has died from sun exposure. Right, to get the connection there.
And there were it was a birthday party for my granddaughter, and there were two cakes, both chocolate. Is that correct? Right?
Yes.
Okay.
And one's bigger and one's smaller.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
And then there's two couples, so two. Two cakes, two couples. And as the dreamer, have I ever encountered a bobcat?
No, the only time I can remember, no, not in flesh, no.
Okay, but and how about raccoons? Are raccoons usually around my home and something I deal with often?
They're not. When we lived in New York, there were a lot of raccoons, but no, I haven't.
Okay. And how do I feel about raccoons as the dreamer? Do I consider them pests, or do I consider them cute and funny, or is there or somewhere in between?
Normally, I would feel that, raccoons would be threatening, but in this crowd, it didn't really bother me at all to see raccoons in the crowd. They're like warm and fuzzy or something. Whereas when I first saw the bobcat, as beautiful as it was, I felt like a bobcat in this crowd.
More threatening, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
God. Okay.
The tiny little observation, two animals, the bobcat and raccoon.
Oh, right.
Just to add to the two.
There you go. Good one. Thank you, Viviana.
Yeah. Okay.
So if I could just reflect a quick bit.
Yeah.
What number one, I love chocolate, and I'm so happy 2 chocolate cakes, even though they're different sizes, showed up in my dream. And my grandchildren or grandchild is celebrating this birthday, and there's some very interesting pieces about all of this, and this is why dream work is so fascinating, because as I, in my dream, create the dream, the flame kind of gets a little, what I might consider risky or dangerous. And so for me, a theme in this dream, in my projection, is that there is a kind of an expansive, changing aspect of who I am, and perhaps of others that I deeply know, that there's this transition of birthday. There's this, the flame, which on one hand could be dangerous, on the other hand is kind of purifying, and also could be making the beginning of change. how fire changes the landscape, or metal or wood. And so that transformative experience is there for me. And the people that are in the dream, in my projection, some of them I probably know from the waking world, some of them I don't. And for me, the ones I don't know, and this is where I speak out of metaphor, not necessarily literally, but I think the metaphor of these ones that I do not know are somehow representing my ancestral energies, and that they are attending and tending to this process, this transformative initiation into a new aspect of my life. And then to see the strangeness of the bobcat walk in, and that wild, undomesticated energy that, in a sense, is ushering me to pay attention to that which is still wild within me. And as I change and transform, I'm being invited to embrace that, because no matter what age I am, I have that ability to keep expanding and moving into areas that are not tame. I'll stop right there.
Beautiful, Royce.
Very well. And Royce used the word I was about to use too, was undomesticated, because whenever we dream of animals, particularly wild animals, it's a reminder of our instinctual energies. And if it's that's why I was asking if I, as the dreamer, had ever encountered a bobcat, because it'd be a bit of a different dream if I'd had some kind of specific story of where I really was threatened in waking life by a bobcat. So this is a undomesticated instinctual energies that's coming to me. That's why I think that I'm not afraid of the raccoon, because raccoons are a little more tame, in the sense that they're more used to humans, and they kind of in some ways rely on humans, because they tend to go through our trash and things like that. So there's these instinctual energies that are coming to me, one of which I'm more familiar with, one of which I'm still is very new. But I love that Viviana brought up again the twos, because the twos do show up: two cakes, two couples, two animals. And whenever twos show up in dreams, I often think about something new that's coming to the surface. It has to be seen as two first, so that I recognize it, so that I pay attention. It's more visible.
Right. So I wonder. I kind of want to check in with Julie. Like, what is this process like for you so far? Because we've been, putting out a bunch of ideas, and what's going on for you?
Well, I find it very interesting, because the evening of the 28th, I went to this talk on energy and moving energies around. It's with sort of sacred geometry and stuff, and I was very kind of moved by it, and really sort of felt a difference. And it's been on my mind a lot. So, it was just been very interesting to hear what Royce and Billie have to say about this ancestral energy, new energy, some kind of transformation, and yeah.
Right. Well, what you're saying, Julie, kind of brings up for me one of the two striking moments for me in this dream. If I'm thinking about living through this dream, there's a certain amount of fuss. I remember there was something about getting the candles lit. There was some kind of fuss about that. But then there's this moment with a man with the dark hair staring at me. I'm really curious about that. And then the other moment is the bobcat emerging from the crowd. Like, these two moments almost seem otherworldly. There's something there. But let's go back to the man. And I do what is not quite a projective dream work. I like to ask a lot of questions, which is so. Can I ask you, what does it feel like when that dark man is staring at me? Is there any sense of threat, or is there a sense of attraction, or a little bit of both, or curiosity, or just nothing?
No sense of threat. There's a sense of almost like a knowing, or maybe an attraction. It's like a connection.
Connection.
Definitely no sense of threat.
Okay, so a little something there.
Like, I know this person, but I don't. Or
and that ties in with what we've been saying about the wild nature, because the Native American people, my kind of stereotype of that is someone who's closer to the land and has more groundedness and connection to nature, and so there's maybe some part of that I feel connected to, and then here comes this bobcat. Talk about a wild part of my nature emerging from the crowd among all these people.
Yeah,
that's an amazing moment. Wow. And I'm like, look at the cat, but then in the dream, somebody shoos it away, and like, what does that feel like for you, Julie? Like to see the cat, number one, and then also to have it shooed away.
Well, I felt it could be dangerous. It was a kind of a push-pull. I felt it was so beautiful, but I almost felt like it could be dangerous in a crowd with children. That's how I felt in the dream. Kind of like contradictory in a way.
Sure.
But it's the image of the bobcat that sticks with me more than anything.
Yeah.
The bobcat and the man.
The bobcat and the man. Yeah. So there's something about these emerging creatures, the connection with the man and then the wildness, the cat right there, which is scary, both scary and attractive of the cat.
Yes, exactly. Good point.
And then for me, I'm thinking, if it's my dream, the person who shoos away the bobcat, like, part of me I'm partly grateful to that person, and yet also I'm kind of wanted to maybe see the cat a little more. So is that the part of me that runs away from the wild part of myself? Is there a part of me that shoos away my own wildness?
Yeah, that could be.
And this is how it works. I got a huge aha from that in my version of it. So it's like I felt tingles all over when Catherine said that.
I think Viviana was going to say something.
Well, I'll just chime in quickly.
Yeah.
Talk about twos. The twos for me are very. I have some observations. Well, the overall themes, and they're like paradoxes or contrasts. So for me, the first point would be observation and connection. I'm an observer in the dream. I might feel detached from the events. Reflecting from a distance, maybe. And at the same time, there's a presence of familiar figures, like the raccoon or animals that I'm familiar with. And these mysterious elements sort of maybe suggest to me a search for an understanding or a connection with deeper parts of my life. And a second theme throughout the whole, if this were my dream, I would choose like the difference between wildness and control, so the contrast between being controlled by the environment or the person lighting the candle, a trusted elder, making sure that no one gets burned, and the wildness of the animals that come in. There's like a tension between the expectations and natural instincts or desires. There might be like maybe a struggle in my life between maintaining order and at the same time embracing known and unknown, untamed, tamed aspects of myself, if this were my dream.
Yeah.
I would like to say amen to that.
Yes.
I get my goosey bumpies on this because this dream feels like an introduction to my expansion and change. And again, I look at aging, in my process. This is a birthday party. I've been studying stuff that I'm not familiar with, which I really don't know what sacred geometry is. However, it's something that attracts me and expands me with lots of questions. And so I feel like this is the one dream of many to come, because I am encountering who I am as I know myself, my ego self, and I'm kind of watching this, and then I'm experiencing the possibility of change into untamed, unknown areas of who I am. And if this is an indigenous person, I feel like that and this is such a projection, that there's kind of a shamanic call to me to look at my roots and to also look at my wildness and the uncontrolled, as yet unknown side of me. So I feel like this is a beginning of many dreams that I need to pay attention to, that I am moving toward a new phase in my life.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that definitely resonates. I mean, it's yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that you, Royce, and Viviana, going deeper into it, and Billie, yeah.
Julie, thank you so much for calling. I found this very rich experience, and thank you for sharing your tender dream.
It's beautiful.
And I hope it is
thank you all.
the first of many interesting emerging dreams. Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks for sharing your dream.
All right. Bye-bye, you guys.
Bye now.
Bye.
Okay, so yeah, there's something about this projected dream work that I love, that I get to have that dream like as my own. Like I can, in my own version of the dream, I can picture the bobcat emerging from the crowd, and the man's face looking at me, because I'm kind of an observer. But then here's this man looking right at me, so I'm not an observer after all. Actually,
I think that was great. What Viviana brought up, the paradox of what goes out through the whole dream.
Mm-hmm. So we what else? We just have a few minutes left in the show. Radio, you guys with your freewheeling podcast get to go on as long as you like, but we have a clock to watch. But what is needing to be said? Maybe we'll go through the three of you one at a time, and you can offer just some what's up for you right now. And Billie, why don't you start? It sounds like you're kind of ready to talk.
Oh, well, sure. I'm always ready to talk. Just ask anybody that knows me. It might be one of the reasons why the podcast goes a little longer than an hour. Anyway, I think we've expressed, all of us have expressed our love for Projective Dreamwork. It truly, I do this work so often, and I've done it for over 20 years now. And I can tell you that I've never, ever disappointed in a dream. And I've never met a dream I didn't like, So a lot of times we throw our dreams away. We say, why even bother recording it? And I have to confess that I've done that myself as well. Yeah. So let's try, I just encourage everybody listening that, try to take the time to at least write your dream down. And if not that, then share it with somebody over coffee or, a coworker during break, whatever. It's important enough. And I think every dream wants to be shared, needs to be shared. Right. And that's another big piece of it. Because Billie, because I was in my version of myself, that's one of the things that keeps me going. It not only helps the individual evolve and change, but it helps us as a group, a community, as humanity to evolve. So I'll just quickly put a real short plug in here. I have a retreat coming up in Boulder, October 11th through the 13th. It'll be my 31st retreat. Wow. I love the work so much because we build a small village and get to know each other over the weekend. And there's other activities too. It's not just dream work. There's a lake and places to walk very close around. And plus we also have music and poetry included. So, and I'm available, as you mentioned before, wakeuptoyourdreams.com.
Wonderful.
So contact me anytime.
Thank you. Billie Ortiz. And then Viviana Guzman, local lady. Maybe we'll get you into the show, get your own dedicated show, as what Billie and Royce have already had. Thanks so much for being on the show. Any real quick final parting comments?
I think Billie summed it up perfectly. I wanted to thank you again, Catherine, for having me, and I'd love to come back anytime.
Great. Okay.
And yes, in the studio.
Yes, right, local. Excellent, Viviana Guzman. And then
my website.
Yes,
I'll just
please.
say my website is viviana.org, and for my healing tarot astrology, it's Viviana. viviana.org/magic.
Magic. Okay, I'll put the links on the page. And then Dr. Royce Fitts, author of the Geography of the Soul. I'll get it right. The Geography. I'll get it. Dang.
Geology of the show.
The Geology of the Soul, y'all.
That's a good
Now
one.
everyone will remember this for sure. The Geography of the Soul, new book out, and we had him on the show a little while ago to talk about that book. And just super quick last comments from you, Royce, please.
Well, I think I should just be quiet because you gave me a big plug just by all of that. With all of the people that I know and love, they know that I love dreams. And they get eye rolls sometimes. I get eye rolls from them because when a dream is mentioned, it's like, what, why do you want to do that, Royce? And I just believe dreams are so core in us. I'm passionate about that, and that they are a part of our evolution. And whether we pay attention to them or not, they are our best friend.
Love it. That's it.
On our inside. So
thank you so much. Yes.
My website is roycefitts.com.
FITTS. Yep.
That's correct. And Catherine, you're so generous, and it's so lovely to be with you again. And your podcast and radio program is wonderful. And I love the music that you always have. And I wanted to give
Thanks to
a
Rick
shout out
Kleffel.
about that.
Yeah, excellent. Who also engineers the show. Thank you, Rick. Wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the show. This has been a fabulous adventure. Then thank you all for listening. The Dream Journal is produced at the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, and we are live every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific at ksqd.org in case you'd like to call in, find out what goes on behind the scenes. The podcast is released on the Monday after the show. It spreads interest in dreaming when you subscribe, rate, and review. Contact me if you'd like to be a guest on the show or to promote a new book, to tell folks about your dream-related offerings. My name is Catherine Bell, and you can find about my dream coaching at experientialdreamwork.com. Follow me at #The Dream Journal on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks to Rick Kleffel and Eric Nelson. Intro and outro pieces are by Mood Science. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, take a minute to write down your dream and bring it to the next Dream Journal.
Existed.